Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So it's an honor for me to share my life experiences. I will not only present theoretical arguments. Everything you will see, all my flesh, bones, and cells, they have been through. I am 47 years old. I have been living in Peru until 15 years old. After I went to Japan, and I had the director of the no theater of my soloist concerts on the flute, studying with him 5 years. Then he sent me to India. I lived in India 7 years, trained spiritually, philosophically, and musically 7 years. And now 20 years in Europe, studying in Copenhagen, Sweden, and in Switzerland. First of all, Professor Luigi, thank you so much for this honor. We met in Zurich in November in a conference, so I am privileged to share these life experiences with you. I am a mentor of future PhD candidates in music education, Geneva University, Faculty of Educational Science. And today the subject is music role in education and human development. I am a member of the research team on the didactic of arts and movement. Andean traditional music. I was born in Peru. Now I have also the blessed that my parents are here. They just came now from Peru directly, my father and mother. Please stand up. Párense, por favor. So, in Peru, the traditional Andean music, we are speaking in the year 77, 78, no written tradition like Europe. Everything is oral, orality, observation, listening, and imitation. That's all. I learned autodidactically. So I learned 2 instruments. My father, when I was 5 years old, he brought me this instrument. 5,000 years old tradition. The pre-Inca Empire culture, they used this instrument. It's just one piece of bamboo. But 5,000 years ago, only 1 or 2 holes. 2, 3 notes, tritonic, not diatonic, not 7 notes. Why? 4,000-5,000 years ago, the purpose of those wind music instruments, it was meditation purposes, self-realization in South America. No entertainment at all, not political purposes. And the second instrument, it was this, pan flute, 5,000 years ago. It was made by the bones of the condor, not bamboo in that time. From the wings, so originally the wings from the condor, the pan flute, and this it was made by the bone of a femur, of a human being. Yes, now it's bamboo, but in that time it was bone. If you hear playing the instrument, it's quena in Quechua. It means whole. If you will hear this quena made by bone, it's really terrific, the sound. I didn't bring it this time. So I started to play with the bamboo. So, like I explained it, that is the tradition. An opening in which the soul gives the best of oneself. If the performer lacks a cultivated character, the expression of the sound would be poor. Pentatonic, tritonic, just listen how it is, this sound. So I don't play any melody because now we are explaining the Andean traditional music before Cristobal Colon. So I learned to play the folk music like, for example, that is the sound from my culture, the Incas culture. So until I was 15 years old, I was in Peru, and then, when I was 16, a very famous Japanese actress from the No Theater, N-O-H, No means talent, is the Zen Buddhism integrated in arts and music. So she came to Peru just to see Machu Picchu, Titicaca Lake, and after the destiny, the karma, she asked, I would like to go to listen Kena player. She came to my concert, she listened to me, she got emotional, and then she said, let's go to Japan, I will be your manager. So when I was in Japan, because of her, I met the principal representative from No Theater, Mr. Hideo Kanze. And he told me the ritualization of Japanese music, which is the meditation on the unity of the mind, the flute, and the body. So in these 50 minutes, I will not explain each culture, just generally, so you will see the general view of all this background. And then, during my studies, I integrated the Andean tradition and the No tradition. And 28 years ago, I did a concert with Mr. Isao Tomita. He's one of the greatest composers in Japan. He passed away. And we did a fusion with a symphony orchestra, the taikos, Japanese traditional music, and the kena. You will hear my composition with them just in 1 minute, what it was about. This is the Japanese traditional percussion taikos. The group is Kodo. Maybe you know them. They are world famous. Kodo. And I was 20 years old there. I am with the black one. Clothes. I don't look the same. So it was in the oldest Buddhist temple in Tokyo in 94, 93. Then Hideo Kanze, after I was in Japan after 5 years, he said, Luis, now you have two shemas. It means roads. Either you continue with your artistic career or you go to India to make research on the cultural origins of the No theater, which are found in India. Because No is Zen Buddhism, but the Buddhism, the original, comes from India. So he sent me to India when I was 19. I chose to go to India and left my whole career in Japan. So I studied Sanskrit, I studied Vedic philosophy, Vaishnava music, which is one of the influential culture in the evolution of the Indian musical tradition. With those masters, Srila Jayapataka Maharaj and Shashank Subramanian. And they told me that performing music is understood as Bhakti Yoga. There are 8 kinds of yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is the philosophy and practice with the mind. It's controlled and yoked with love, with the absolute and the divine. So I was trained 7 years, but still using the Inca flute. So I learned that the effects of the rhythms, tals, and the scales, ragas, and the precise repetition of them awaken the person's higher level of consciousness by acting upon the internal personality and transforming insensibility, way of thinking, and even a state of soul and moral values. So that it was my realization in India, and I think now I will just share something about this music from India, but a melody from Vaishnava music, and I will turn on this tambura. So the song I will perform is Mamana Mamandire. The writer is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, 500 years ago, belonged to the Vaishnavism tradition, and he was inspired about the mind which has so 100 deviations, ways, and how to keep it with love, to dedicate to the absolute and to divinity. Sorry. Yes. So after this, excuse me, I will. Yes. So after these 7 years of experience, I wanted to study and to compare how is this oral tradition, Peru, Japan, India, with the Western European one. So I went to Denmark, to a classical Western music conservatory. And 3 years I studied this instrument, the flute traversière transfer flute, the metal one, jazz and classical, and the change was radical. I discovered a fidelity to writing, normative knowledge, and reading scores. So, in that time, I was very fascinated about this mechanism, because you can play in 1 minute 12 tonalities. But if you would like to play in 12 tonalities in 1 minute, you need like 4 or 5 canons, like this, like this. And this is the contribution of this instrument. And now I will present a video. I am the principal flutist at one of the symphony orchestras in Geneva, playing this metal flute, so you will hear different kind of music. So this music is different from the Peruvian, the Japanese, and the Indian. And then, now it's coming by, we could say, the bless from life, from God. It came an idea to my mind. The best of this contribution, the bamboo flute, the bamboo culture which represents this spirituality, and the Incas, is this part which makes the sound, not the holes. So I said, how I can get the best part from the sound from this bamboo spiritual culture, but in the same time how I can get the 12 tonalities of the buoyant key mechanism. So I went to Peru, and with a flute maker we did 500 experiments in order to get, as you can see, it's the same. And it was just to get the perfect internal diameter. So when I am going to blow, the 4 octaves will be in tune. In 2002, we got that contribution. It's like this, and you go like this. And now I will perform this. But before that, I have to graduate one moment the sound, but I think it's okay. So I will perform a Japanese tune on this fluting innovation. You have 2 worlds, the Incas Empire representing the oral tradition and the European culture in one instrument. So this song is called Shikuramen. So I went like a small boy with his toy from Peru to Denmark, and I showed that to the director of the Royal Music Conservatory in Copenhagen. And I played for him, and he was very impressed about that sound from Asian culture, but with the whole key technical mechanism from European culture. And he said, Luis, why not the next year, it was 2002, 2003, you participate in the World Invention and Innovation competition in Lund University in Sweden, sponsored by the Nobel Academy. So you can get all the comments and like that, yes. And I said, yes, and he gave me all the information. But he said to me, I am sure that now you are thinking that you would like to study this instrument in the conservatory, but you cannot. So I would suggest you that you study this flute traversière, the metal one. But he said, how old are you? And I was 28, very old for a music conservatory, and I didn't know how to write music, no piano, no conducting, nothing of written tradition. So he said, you know, those who enter at the conservatory, they are 19, but I see you with so much passion that, can you play a la turca, but 3 times quicker? I would like to see your ability in flute and the tonguing and like that. And I said, 3 times quicker. So, when I studied in India, the richest rhythm education on this planet are the Carnatic music. It's so complex with mathematical, rhythmical, not comparison on this planet. So I integrate that technique, but with Mozart. So I will play like he wanted, a la turca, 3 times quicker. So he was, okay, I will give you dispensation, and during 1 year I have to distribute newspapers. Why? Because I didn't want to bother my parents in Peru, so I have to take charge of my responsibility. It was winter time in Denmark. It was in 2001. It was not like right now, the weather. So the winter, it was minus 20. So from 12 until 5 in the morning, I was living in a forest because it was cheap to have a room, not in Copenhagen. So every day, 10 months, 300 newspapers, minus 20, biking 80 kilometers per day. Why? Because it's very expensive to hire a private teacher in order to train you to entrance to a European music conservatory. After 10 months, I applied with the flute traversière, and by the blessing of life, I was accepted as the only one flute player with this one, only one cello, one piano, only one instrument. It's very, very competitive in Europe. I don't know the rest, but in Scandinavia like this. So now, when I did this invention, I went to Sweden, but before that, it's just a little surprise. I applied Swedish people, what is the most they appreciate? Integration of cultures through an invention. So I played the whole thing, examination, the whole thing, and they just said, not they just said, but they said, it's wonderful, it's the top innovation we have seen in order to integrate Asian and Western European culture. You will hear from us in 2 months. So after 2 months, and I opened the letter, and by the bless of life, I won the competition in 2003 with this instrument. And what it was the first prize, a medal, it was much more beyond of that. I got a bachelor on my own invention, awarded by the Bologna European Curriculum University System. I have patented like De La Calle, my last name, De La Calle flute. And after I got another master's degree in music education based on the De La Calle flute. That it was the first prize. And then I studied 8 years with Professor Anders Junger Chapelon. He's, right now, my opinion, is the highest representative in the French flute tradition in music education. We studied 8 years, a great personality, Anders. And then, when I was with Anders, he said, Luis, I know that you would like to do a doctorate in music education. It's not healthy you continue to study 8 years in the same university, in Lund University. Go to another country, change professor, change culture. So I left Sweden, I went to Switzerland, and I did a PhD in didactics. Didactics, it's teaching and learning processes of a certain knowledge and the contents of it. This is didactic, the scientific approach of the pragmatism of teaching and learning. So I was almost 6 years to do a PhD. And then I would like to know how much time we have left in order to calculate.
20 minutes.
20 minutes, 15, yes. Good. We will not finish, unfortunately.
But you're going to be here until the end of the week?
Yeah, until Saturday, for sure. So now so until now, 2-3 minutes question. So I will now go much forward with the PowerPoint. Some questions until now, please. Any question? Yes, please.
Can you use this, your instrument also in this position?
Yes, not position, but we have produced it like the Kena head joint, but adapted to a metal one, for a normal metal one, which is like this.
So there's no opening that you can play like?
No, because this is, you cannot play like this. Yes, it's like this. Huh? Other more question? Another question? Yes, please.
I'm wondering, are you familiar with the Silk Road Ensemble? The ensemble that Yo-Yo Ma started about 20 years ago that takes musicians from Asian, South American, and some European folk traditions?
What is the name of that?
Silk
Road.
Yeah, yes. I am not so into, but of course I heard about that.
Like a Silk Road, a one-man Silk Road ensemble.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So, this is the second chapter. I wanted to explain about my PhD dissertation, but we will go forward. I wanted to present some videos very interesting about music education, but we will not make it. So, excuse me. Just the conclusion, in my dissertation, I have observed and researched 2 approaches, the ethnomusicological and the folk pop music. And the conclusion of my thesis is that that tradition is not a piece of museum. The tradition is not that. It's a living reality with a historical construction in a constant transformation, because all cultures to a certain degree are impregnated by elements of other cultures. That was one of the most important conclusions of my 5-year thesis. Then, just a brief explanation, origin and historical culture of the Andean traditional music. It's the pre-Columbian period, and it's based on a ritual festival function inspired in the Andean philosophy, which are the two opposites, the sun and the moon, man and woman. This is the Andean, the Incas, and in this case is the name of this is Siku. I forgot to explain you that before Cristobal Colón, you can see here 2 rows, but they separated and they construct a melody in this way. And that represents the basic principle of life in the Andean community, a dialogue between the community and the elements of nature. The way of transmission, oral transmission, 3, 4, 5 years old, the child was hearing what the mother was singing, and the baby was here, and in that way he was absorbing the whole melodies. When he was 8, he was introduced to a music group called Tropa. In this way, by interaction with the other musicians, they were developing all these human values, responsibility, discipline, etc. This is very important, you have to hear. This is the way of traditional Andean music, before Cristobal Colón, but this video is not before Columbus. But this is the way how it's Andean traditional music. Look, it's very interesting. So the interaction is not with the audience like me with you, it's with the elements of nature and the community. This is normal traditional music in India, in Japan, like this. Popular folk music is the integration of the Western elements and the traditional music. Technical aspects, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, chromatic scale, by using also these 7 holes instruments. Way of transmission, written one and oral tradition. And ethnomusicology, it's an sphere with a scientific discourse, but researching about this traditional music. The technical aspects, they use also Andean traditional music in this case and popular music. Way of transmission, only oral tradition. Would you like to hear? It's the second hymn, it's the second most important song from Peru. How many minutes, please, we have left?
10 minutes to talk and then a couple minutes introduction.
Yes. If it's okay for you, if we have some time, I play that. It's okay? I go forward? Yes. So the results. What you have seen is that in India, Japan, and South America, the musician has double simultaneous function, performer and a maker, luthier. Never the musician is separated from the flute maker. They are together. In the conservatories, there is not like that, of course, if there is not. The other result, dancer in Japan and in India, in Peru, but you play in the same time. Dancing is not separating. Why? Because the use of dance to rhythm the pulse of the melody with the body. This is the contribution. In the European conservatories, the musicians, they do not dance at all. Yes. And the other, learn to speak before reading. First make music and only then understand how it is made. Are you agree about that? Yes. This is oral tradition. In the conservatories, normally it's opposite. Solfege, theory, and then you can play an instrument. At least in Switzerland it's like this. And the children, they have very hard times, emotionally, really. They don't learn with joy, normally. Every musician conclusion and music teacher should observe other ways of doing, because the mentioned practice can be useful for the training of musicians and singers. So the real artistic expression from South America, Japan, India portrays an essential evolution of human consciousness from the gross to the subtle, from material to the eternal, to the spiritual, and from the temporal to the eternal. This is the message from Asian traditions, the uplift of human consciousness. Through this integrative approach, these cultures shows that art is a force that drives this evolution. It is an expression of the individual's deep hankering of happiness, whose fundamental quality is aesthetic. Therefore, aesthetics in these oral traditions is in the heart itself of human existence, and is the nature of the ultimate reality, the absolute truth, as referred to by these Asian traditions. And our tradition where it comes from Greece, normally. This philosopher considered that the understanding of this absolute truth is the goal of human life and the goal of education. And as a step to understand the absolute truth is one of the Plato's dialogue, Timaeus. It describes that our real self is neither the physical body, not the mind, but is the spiritual soul, full of knowledge, of joy, and is eternal. This is our essence, according to Socrates. And we are in this body, like the taxi driver in the car. And those are analogies with the Upanishads of the Vedic scriptures where I went through from Asian India. According to the Vedic scriptures, there are 3 Vedic paths in the understanding of the absolute truth. And these are related from the mentioned cultures. The first one is Karma Kanda, and you have seen a big example. The Andean music, why they were playing for the sun and the moon? To get rain for the harvest. So they were doing an activity, but they want a fruit, a result. This is called Karma Kanda, or the path of ceremonial and rites of sacrifice. Second is the Jnana Kanda, the path of the knowledge of the soul, presented by ancient Greeks, and the philosophy used in no art. And I wanted to explain that in the ancient Greeks, what could attain the knowledge of the soul through meditation, our identity, through the famous know yourself. In the no art, it's extremely intense and refers the artful use of emptiness and silence through a meditation on the oneness of the mind, the instrument, and the body. But it's incomplete. Why? This oneness from Buddhism is based on 2 aspects of the soul: emptiness and formless. And I go forward according to the Vedic scriptures is this one, Kevalananda Kanda. The Kevalananda Kanda is the path of the science of the spiritual soul through music to awake love towards the absolute truth as the supreme personality of Godhead. This path is expressed in Vaishnava music from India by singing mantras, playing the tals rhythms, the scales, this, as scientific aesthetic forms between the notes and rhythms. in the Western conservatories are not normally oriented to uplift the consciousness of the student. It's just the subject itself. You go home and that's all, you do whatever you want. Not like this, but you know what I mean exactly. We are finishing. So, those are my kids. International School of Geneva in Switzerland is the oldest international school on this planet. 1925. So, 7-year-old children from more 50 countries, they will perform, and more 100 children, they will perform. You know the Titicaca Lake, we have like the recorder, not this embouchure, but recorder, you put it, and that is called Pincuyo, 5,000 years ago. And with these children, during 5 months, they have constructed their own flute with their small hands. And I went before to the Amazon jungle. I was 3 days inside, sometimes seeing some anacondas passing around the leopard, in order to cut the bamboo and to bring it to Lima and after to Switzerland in order to educate those children. And then they are playing with 3 notes, tritonic, like the Incas, and they are playing European music. But I was teaching them mindfulness, how to have this unity, and how they can offer to nature and to the divine their performance. Listen, please. So, in order to finish, human consciousness. Music, I don't use it as a goal, no. I use it as a tool, especially for music education, to educate a child in human and spiritual values. And this is my statement: life is an art to live, and a work of art is the expression of our personality as a whole, of our sensibility and our ability. When I was 12 years old, I wrote an instrumental song. I would like to perform that for you. It's ready, yes? Yes. So this song I dedicated to my town in that time. It's called To the Feet of the Bamboo. And I will play with the traditional instruments. Yes. Sorry. Chacya en Aymara significa carrizo. Chaclacayo.
When you play, it
Yes.
distorts
Yes.
the speakers.
You can a little bit down. Can we put the microphone, but this is down, we can put it down, please. Please, like before, yes. It's okay now? Thank you. Let's try, thank you. 2, 3. And this is pop folk music from South America. I wrote for this. out this, take out the microphone. More volume. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Gracias. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Eunice. That was
pleasure.
wonderful. And I think that we may invite you tomorrow evening to the participants evening. We don't
For
know
sure.
about it, but maybe another couple of questions for Luis before we break?
Rather another song.
Yes.
Right.
Si quieres enseñar el video del workshop.
El cóndor pasa. Yes. Yes. Yes, note this, yes, please. Yes. So it's more natural to play without this, like the functions. So El Cóndor pasa. Did you know that El Cóndor pasa is just a very short part of a symphony composed by Daniela Lomías Robles, some popular folk orchestra in Puno, Titicaca. They took it and they were beginning to play with the sikus and the trombones like that. And after came to Simon Garfunkel and the whole thing. But the original composer is Daniela Lomías Robles from Peru. And those musicians, they pick it up from a short part of a symphony of this Daniela Lomías Robles. I would like to dedicate this song, which is the second national song from Peru, Before Cristobal Colón, there were not Brazil, not Peru, not Colombia. It was the whole Incas empire. Like many years ago, the light of the world was Rome, yes, for the whole European, in South America with the Incas culture. And I would like to dedicate with my heart this song to all of you. It's really a privilege and honor to stay here, and I am very excited to share that. And especially I would like to dedicate the Condor Baza for my parents. They just arrived some days ago, the whole way from Peru, and now they are listening that in a European environment. For my father, he was big example for me of discipline. My father, he was working like the ex-chief of the security of the state of Peru when he was young. My father is 72. He doesn't seem 72. And then my mother, yes, what I could say about the mom, what I could say, no words. My mother was, without my mother, yes, I could not be here. Of course, also the father, but you know, the mother, we have to recognize. The mother. So with all of you, Papa, Mama, and all of you in my heart, El Cóndor pasa.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.